Welcome to another episode of the Go Flush Yourself podcast with Jared Kirk and Matt Milbauer. Hey listeners, I want to thank our sponsors. If you haven't noticed, we like sponsors that do something in particular, and that's giving back. You'll notice with both of our sponsors, they give back, and that's one of the reasons we really love them. And we hope that you take a look at what they're doing and help support them so they can help support this hobby and sport that we love. First up, Bird Hunter Supply, your go-to for premium hunting gear at birdhuntersupply.com. This family-owned business, run by a husband and wife team from Idaho, is driven by their love for bird hunting, dog training, and the great outdoors. For them, hunting is a treasured family tradition. Think crisp mornings in the field, the thrill of the chase, and those irreplaceable moments with dogs, family, and friends. They've built Bird Hunter Supply to share that passion, curating high-quality gear to help you create your own lasting hunting memories with your crew. Whether you're a beginner or a seasoned hunter, Bird Hunter Supply has you covered with top-notch equipment from dog training tools to hunting apparel, backed by exceptional customer service to make your experience unforgettable. Best of all, they're deeply committed to preserving the wild spaces we love. When you shop at birdhuntersupply.com, you can choose at checkout to direct a percentage of your order to conservation powerhouses like Pheasants Forever, Ruffed Grouse Society, or Delta Waterfowl. Your purchase helps these groups protect vital habitats and sustain the wildlife that makes our sport possible, ensuring hunting traditions thrive for generations. Visit birdhuntersupply.com today. Explore their carefully selected gear and support a family-run business dedicated to both hunters and the outdoors. That's birdhuntersupply.com. Gear up, hunt with purpose, and help preserve the wild. Now let's talk about our next sponsor, Hunt Ready. If you chase birds like we do, you know a great upland vest is one of the most important pieces of gear you own. Hunt Ready builds tough, modular, ultra-light strap vests that are sourced and sewn right here in the USA. Their Deviate and Elevate series use smart, patented designs that actually stay comfortable mile after mile, whether you're carrying birds, water, or extra shells. They're built by hunters for hunters who put in real miles in the uplands. But what really sets them apart is their Pave the Way program. It's a first-of-its-kind initiative focused on getting high-quality vests to the next generation of upland hunters. They accept nominations for kids who are fired up about bird hunting and work to help equip as many as they can so those kids can get out there building real memories with their dog and their shotgun. If you're in the market for a new vest or you want to keep upland hunting alive for kids, check out Hunt Ready at huntready.com. That's HUNTREDI.com. Lastly, but definitely not least, I want to thank all of you patrons out there that support us on Patreon. You keep the lights on month after month. Really thank you for your support. Links to all of our sponsors and their really cool programs that give back are linked in our podcast description, and credits to our producers. If you're interested in becoming a producer of the show, you can check the link there and find out how. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Go Flush Yourself podcast. I'm Matt, as always, with my co-host here, Jared. Jared, how you doing?
Good, Matt. How you doing?
And I don't know if you can tell by audio or not, but Jared and I are in person on this call. And on this call, we also have a guest. We have someone kind of special. We're going to learn, hopefully, some things from today. And he's been, for the last 50 years, he's been one of the most influential figures in shotshell ballistics and ammunition development. He's an independent ballistics consultant, author, and researcher whose work has shaped how the world understands shotgun performance, especially when it comes to lead and non-toxic shot. He's worked with some of the biggest names in the ammunition industry, including Remington, Winchester, Heavy Shot, RST, and others, helping design and test shotshell loads that are still used by hunters today. He holds patents on shotshell components and has spent decades studying everything from pellet performance and patterns to terminal ballistics and real-world lethality. Through his work with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the Cooperative North American Shotgunning Education Program, He helped lead some of the largest scientific field studies ever conducted on shotgun effectiveness, including thousands of birds examined through X-ray and dissection to understand exactly what happens when a pellet meets a target. His research has produced one of the most extensive databases of shotshell performance in existence, and is widely considered one of the most experienced authorities on non-toxic shot. Beyond the laboratory, he's a lifelong hunter who still spends roughly 50 days a year in the field hunting waterfowl and upland birds. And in 2024, Field and Stream named him one of the 25 greatest waterfowl hunters of all time. Today we're talking about shotgun ballistics, the evolution of non-toxic shot, and what 50 years of testing has taught him about building the perfect load. This is Tom Roster. Tom, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so we have been interviewing a few guests now for a few episodes in a row on kind of ballistics and choke tubes and shot and how to pick out your load you want for your shot. And we've been talking to a few other kind of experts in the field about it. We both experience. But we really want to get with you and see what you can teach our audience on this as we go into this next hunting season and people are out there thinking about what shells they're going to be buying and thinking about their shotgun setup and whatnot. So I'm going to hand it over to Jared, and I think he'll have a question for you.
Very good.
All right, Tom. So, do you think steel shot deserves the bad rap that's plagued it basically since the beginning?
Well, when I first started in my career back in the mid '60s, I thought it did, but as I had to run various tests in a way that were absolutely unbiased, and you couldn't rig them and so forth, I started to learn how ignorant I really was. And the data taught me that steel shot could be an effective pellet for bird hunting as long as the hunter made some adjustments. And I still stand by that today. I don't see any difference in my attitude towards it.
So it sounds like you're saying that your opinion changed the shots. The shot shell and the steel itself didn't change or anything about that. I mean, sure, it changed some, but was it more the data showed you that steel's always been, or steel doesn't deserve the negative comments it gets, or has it gotten better and you've changed your mind because of that?
Okay, that's a very good question. No, it hasn't gotten better. There's nothing different about it today than it was back in the mid-'60s. The only difference now is some of the steel loads have a faster initial velocity than they did back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. So it hasn't improved. It's just that the data taught me there has to be adjustments to it if you want to have it be as effective as you remember lead being. And that's the bottom fact for all of my testing that compared lead versus steel shot.
Okay.
What adjustments need to be made?
Okay, well, what I learned is that first of all, you could not get the same performance out of a steel-sized pellet, let's say it's a 4, as you could out of a lead 4. There was too big a difference in density between the two, and there was no way you're going to get that steel 4 to perform like the lead 4. But if you were willing to simply change to a larger pellet, which in this case would be a number 2 steel, the weight of the steel pellet 2 is almost the same as a lead 4. And so therefore, you can get the same downrange energy and the same penetration out of that steel pellet 2 that you ever could get out of a 4 on a given game bird. And the other issue comes up then, but you're going to have less number 2s in the shell compared to the same space in the shell for the number 4 lead. And that's true. But one need not worry. That was another thing my testing taught me. because the steel patterns so much more efficiently than does the lead that the patterns downrange, the number of pellets in a given area, are virtually the same from the steel 2s as the lead 4s. So then the only difference in shooting the two is you've got to get used to the deceleration rate of steel versus lead. So the steel pellets will decelerate at a different, faster rate than will the lead pellets because they're larger in diameter to get to weigh the same as the lead pellet. So what that boils down to in the field basically is you don't have to do anything if you're shooting at 30 yards or less. And if you're shooting out to 40 yards, maybe you have to use a little bit more lead with steel. But definitely if you're shooting long range with steel, you've got to use more lead than you used with lead. And you don't learn that overnight. You have to learn that via practice or an awful lot of bird hunting before your muscle memory adapts to that change. So that's what I learned was the biggest problem that hunters had shooting steel shot. And the second thing was the old tradition was they ran around with real tight choke. So your standard choke for a waterfowler was a full, and there were a lot of full shoulder shooters also for pheasants, but maybe more modified back in the lead days. And so those chokes with steel are going to pattern even more tightly than they would with the lead 4s. So you've got to use a little more open choke to get the same pattern diameter. It won't be the same, but it'll be close, and a similar shot string length on a steel shot. And it's the pattern diameter and the shot string length that allow the shotgunner margin of error for hitting the target. So I would say that for the average shot that a waterfowler makes, probably modified choke, if he or she only had one, that would be it. And if you were an upland bird shooter and you were shooting a lot of 30 to 40 yard shots, an IC choke, if you were shooting steel shot, would probably be the best if you only had one. But my advice is, in life, why have one choke? Why not have two chokes if you can afford it, or you can like shooting an over and under or a side by side? Then you've got two things. So if I were an upland bird guy shooting pheasants, I'd have an IC and mod, and if I were a waterfowler, I'd probably have mod and improve mod as my chokes.
There's so many questions from all of that. It's just a lot of good info. Kind of going back a little bit, when it comes to patterns, it's a good point that steel patterns better, and I think a lot of hunters have noticed that just through experience. But is there a size of shot to where it starts causing problems in the pattern? Like if I just have a 3-inch shell on a standard 12 gauge, Benelli, is there, if I'm shooting BBs or something like big like that, does that start messing with the pattern with steel?
Why, the gun or the choke that's in the gun?
And maybe it's the choke. Maybe if you have a modified or improved modified choke, like there's talk out there, and it's just you never know what to believe when just different hunters are throwing around different things. Like I heard this and I heard that, and one of the things I've been hearing a lot of right now is as you get higher in those sizes, like beyond 2, bigger than 2. You start kind of messing up your pattern, and it doesn't pattern as well with steel because they're not deforming out of the barrel when they're choked a little tighter.
Okay, well, that's a couple of questions there, so I'll pick them off one by one. So the first thing is, if you're shooting steel shot, what did you say, BB, size BB? You're a goose hunter?
Sure. Let's say you're shooting BB.
Okay. So, if you take your full choke out there and you shoot steel BBs through it, you won't get as good a pattern as you would, it's an exception now, than you would with lead BBs, because the choke now is too tight for the steel BB, because the steel BB will not deform as it passes through the choke. So if make it simple in simple language, so the choke then, if it's full, squeezes that shot charge more than it does with lead. The lead gets through the choke easier because the pellets do some deforming before they get out of that choke, whereas the steel pellets don't deform. So if you want to get good long-range patterns with steel BBs, what my data tells you, and if you, maybe we'll get eventually to my lethality table, which summarizes all of this stuff I've done for 50 years, you're going to find that improved modified would be the tightest choke you'd want to shoot with steel BBs.
Improved? Say that again. What's the improved modified would be the tightest choke you want to shoot with BBs? Is that what you said?
Right. Okay. So let's review it. Okay, so we got rookies on chokes. So your most open choke is nothing. That's called cylinder.
Yep. And
then a little tighter is called skeet. And then a little tighter than that is called improved cylinder.
Mm-hmm.
A little tighter is modified. Now a little tighter than that is called improved modified. And then the tightest would be full.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have your lethality table up here and looking at it. So, yeah, I kind of see what you're saying here with the, you have that laid out there on the different chokes you can use. And, yeah, this has been in our, like, pamphlets or state, regs pamphlets for probably 10 years, I'm guessing. But, so it's something I've looked over a lot when I'm trying to figure out what I want to do here. But you mentioned also shot string.
Yeah.
What should hunters worry about with shot string?
Well, that's the most important thing in shotgunning. And that's probably the least known, because the hunter has no way to go out and measure shot string that he can see. He can measure the pattern diameter when he shoots on a piece of paper or whatever, but you can't see the length of the string. So for years, that's always created the misnotion that all those pellets get to that piece of paper at the same time. So that's why you have all of these nonsensical pictures of pheasants and ducks and stuff for people to pattern test on. Those things tell you nothing, absolutely nothing. So the deal, if you want to get a kind of an idea of the shot string length, is to stand on the edge of a lake and shoot your gun flat over the water, and you'll be shocked how long the shot string is. And the tighter the choke, here's another thing that's misunderstood. The tighter the choke, the shorter is the shot string. So that if one were shooting an improved cylinder choke, that's an open choke, you will have a longer shot string with any load than you would if you were shooting it through a full. So the full makes it tighter in diameter and shorter in length. And the open chokes make it larger in diameter and longer in string length, which is why hitting with an open choke is easier than hitting with a full choke. And it's why you have to go to an open choke at close range to get as much pattern diameter and string length as you can get, instead of trying to hit these birds at 25 yards of the full choke, where you've got to have a perfect aim. And then after you shoot them, then you've got to eat them. So that's important facts about shotgunning that don't come out in hardly any magazines or anything you read, because the people writing those, by and large, have never tested anything.
Makes
See, the
sense.
testing went out the window about sometime in the late 80s, from what I can tell. There weren't any writers anymore that said, yeah, blah, 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 I tested the such and such against the such and such, and here's some pictures of my patterns, and here's some counts of the pellets that I made. You don't ever see that anymore. They're not out there pattern testing. They just repeat advertising claims. That's what's going on now. And that's why it perpetuates the ignorance about string length and pattern diameter and the confusion about chokes and how chokes really work.
So it seems counterintuitive. If the choke's tighter, the shot string is shorter. Like, my logical brain just wants to say if it's more open, the shot string would be shorter, but it's not. Do you know why that is? I can't understand it. Like, just trying to think about it.
No, if you have an open choke, a more open choke, the diameter of the pattern is bigger.
Right.
But the shot string length is longer.
Huh.
Okay. So what happens is, if you could see it on high-speed photography, downrange, which no hunter has any of that kind of equipment. A lot of the factories don't have it either. They got a high-speed photography 3 feet or 6 feet in front of the barrel, but they don't have anything 20 yards away,
Right.
or 40 yards away sideways to the string, so they can see how long it is. They don't have that. So the reason it happens is when you fire through an improved cylinder choke, it's bigger in diameter than a full to begin with. So that's automatically going to make the pattern diameter of the improved cylinder or the open choke bigger than the full. As far as the string length go, the reason the improved cylinder is is longer, okay, is because it allows the shot charge to elongate more before it gets out of that choke. That helps a little bit. And but when it comes out of the full, you've got a skinnier group of pellets coming out of the full. And more of them, I'm sure you watch racing cars once in a while. You know what drafting is.
Sure.
Out of a full choke, you get a lot more pellets drafting in the wake of the pellets in front of them, whereas in the improved cylinder choke, you have a larger diameter of the shot in the front and less being able to draft. Okay, a less percentage can draft. And so that's why you're going to have a longer string than you would. See, am I getting confused?
No, you've actually explained that like beautifully. It makes perfect sense to me now. Like, essentially, in the full choke, they kind of get backed up in there, and then they draft on each other and stick together. Whereas in a more open choke, they can get out of there quicker, and the shot string elongates. That makes perfect sense now.
And there's less drafting, way less drafting.
Right. So they have different speeds, and yep, exactly. Okay, it makes a lot more sense now. That very well explained.
Going back to pattern and stuff like that, there seems to be kind of like another school of thought when it comes to patterns, and they want more pattern density by going to a smaller shot size for like bigger birds. So shooting, like, I know in your lethality table you say like 3s and 2s and steels for pheasants, but I've seen kind of a shift towards like 4s, 5s, and 6s, but a heavier load for pheasants. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, well, if you went to my lethality table, which any of the listeners can go to if you're in Washington anyway, to go to your hunting regs, and you'll find my table printed in there. And you go to the ringneck pheasant line. I think it's also in Idaho It's definitely in Montana's. It was in Oregon. It was never in California's. I don't think Utah prints it, but there's like 50 some odd agencies worldwide that print my table on their website. I charge them for that.
Good for you.
They pay a fee. And anyway, if you went to the ringneck pheasant line and you were shooting, what are we shooting, lead or steel?
Steel.
Okay, it says here, the data, the next column says what distance these data now are going to be relevant at, and it's talking about 20 to 50 yards shooting. Okay, and what next thing it says, if you're shooting steel, what we found from the x-rays and the necropsies of the birds that we killed B1, which would be dead or immobile within 30 seconds, is that they had 2 to 3 pellet strikes on the lethal area of their body, which is the head, neck, and the thoracic cavity. So that's where the heart is, okay? And in terms of steel, you needed a 1 ounce. We tried all kinds of weight loads. You needed a minimum of 1 ounce load, didn't matter what the gauge was, of steel threes to get 2 to 3 pellets on a pheasant-sized bird. And to have that happen, your pattern at the distance it was being struck, that's your next vertical column.
Yep.
You had to have a pattern of 90 to 95 pellets in a 30-inch circle in order to have enough density for that to happen. Now, yeah, you can load a 4 or not a 4, but let's go smaller. You could load a 6 and get a lot more pattern density than 90 to 95. But the problem would be the pellets don't have enough energy to penetrate properly. So you got to have 2 things to kill these birds. You've got to have a pellet that's big enough and dense enough to be able to penetrate through those body tissues in order to kill the bird. And it's got to be the head, neck, and thoracic cavity. You can shoot it in the butt all day long with any pellet, and it'll fall down not dead. And this table is trying to get you to have B1 kills. You hit it once, it's dead, amen. So that's the thing. The first thing is you need a minimum sized pellet for that body to get it to penetrate properly. And from the necropsies, we learned it was a steel 3. And you can also have a 4, but not in steel. If you want to shoot a size 4, you got to have heavy shot or lead. Okay?
Got it.
And get your 90 to 95 count pattern. And you got to go down there at the distance that you want to hit these birds. If you think you're hitting these birds, that's where you want to do your pattern testing. Not any of this, I'm going to pattern test at 20 yards, and then I'm going to extrapolate down to some magic 45-yard distance or some. All that stuff is BS. It's mathematically false. It's been tested. It's not provable. It's all made up by people. If you want to pattern test properly, it's simple. You just set up your pattern sheet at the distance you want to know what your pattern looks like and what it's going to count. Counting means you go down there after you fire your 1 shot. You don't have a pre-drawn circle or a pheasant or anything else. And you draw a circle, 30-inch circle, around the densest area of the pellet strikes. And then you got to count the dang little things, all of them, including the ones that touch the line. They count to get the pattern count. If you got less than 90 to 95, but you got the right size to penetrate, you still don't have a load here. You've got to have both the right size and the minimum pattern density. And then the last column tells you at those distances, your we're covering 20 to 50 yards. It says for your 20 to 30 yard shots, you need an IC. That's going to probably do the best job of getting you that 90 to 95 at that distance. And if you want to shoot beyond 30 yards, 30 to 50 yards, if you see the next one there, that's you're going to need a modified to get 90 to 95 out of a steel 3 or 2. So I'm going to tell you something about pheasants. In the old days, these guys ran around, and I got to be careful because I'm an old guy now. But anyway, when I started hunting, all these guys my age in the 60s and everything, the big pellet was a 6 lead. And that, to this day, still kind of paints everybody's idea of what's an effective pellet. And, of course, it worked pretty good because in those days, there were a heck of a lot more pheasants than there are now. And so there were many, 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 many more shots taken at 20 to 30 yards than there are today. So the 6 lead is an ineffective wounding pellet from my research for any pheasant hunting that you ever shoot at under 30 yards. You've got to have a bigger pellet than that in both lead and steel to have an effective penetrator. A pheasant is a tough bird. I learned from my necropsies, and we're talking thousands of birds, pheasants that I necropsied. And it's a tough damn bird. And the other problem with it is it's usually flying away, not straight away, but
right.
Most of the angles are angling away. So now you've got to drive that pellet through the butt, up through the intestines, through the diaphragm, to finally get at the lungs and the heart, which will be a killing area. Remember, that's in the thoracic cavity. So that's another reason that a pheasant, when we upland hunt, is a tough bird to kill dead. Get it B1, so that it's absolutely not going anywhere when you pick it up or your dog goes to retrieve it. That's what we're after in this table. Now, see, that kind of a little conservation message, that kind of killing is acceptable to a non-hunter. Boom, it's dead. It doesn't suffer. It's not running away. The dog isn't chewing on it as he brings it back or whatever. Not that they should, but some do. They don't want that. And that ultimately will shut down your hunting over time because the hunters are becoming less and less in number, and the number of people that don't hunt are becoming proportionately greater in number. And at some point in the future, those two lines on the graph are going to cross, and they're going to determine whether you get to hunt at all and how you get to hunt. So we want this to be a very lethal killing situation if we're going to have the image of a hunter that cares about this resource when he kills it. And there's no reason. They don't care. They're not offended if you use the word kill. What they're offended by is wounding, or the old term was crippling, birds that are shot at. That's what they think is just horrible. They're not impressed that your dog retrieved it. Oh, it's suffering all the way back to your hand, and then you got to do something nasty to it to finish it off. That's what grosses them out. I know this because when I did my research, I had to take people from the Humane Society and all of these kind of people along to witness what I was doing and to put their seal of approval on it in order for the government to help fund, the federal government, to help fund the research. So I learned that, and that's very important for hunters to take seriously. So amen for that little speech. Sorry.
No, it's a really, really good point, and something we should all be thinking about.
Okay. Now let's
go ahead.
next question.
Okay, so we'll go back to shot shells then. So going back to shot shells and like especially like the newer steel loads, a lot of the steel loads are starting to up the velocity measures up, you know, into the 1700 feet per second. Do you think that's
Yeah,
actually
that's
warranted?
no, not at all. That's horrible. So I love your questions here, by the way. These are great. The list you gave me.
Yeah.
It's going to take some more podcasts, but that's okay. We can do it. The important thing is that a pellet is a sphere, and a sphere or a ball is not a bullet. That seems simple. But the industry itself is inhabited by people that are engineers that basically, if they're taught anything about ballistics, it's always bullets. And nobody is teaching them hardly anything about how spheres behave. So here's a lesson real fast. If a bullet, you start out a bullet, say, 100 foot-seconds faster than another bullet, the same bullet, that 100 different foot-seconds difference at the muzzle is going to hold on quite a ways downrange. It's going to be a 75-yard or more differential of 100 foot-seconds that far downrange, and maybe more. The trouble with the darn pellet is the faster you start it out, the faster it slows down. So it just creates more and more resistance in front of itself. The faster, if you did it in a vacuum, it would be fine, okay?
Right.
But we don't shoot in a vacuum. We shoot in an atmosphere with humidity and air molecules and dust and stuff. And so when you do fire in a non-vacuum, you create more resistance in front of that pellet the faster you start it out. So there is a useful level of velocities that get these pellets to still have enough energy downrange to kill birds to say 60 to 70 yards if you have the right pellet. But if you start jacking up the velocity, like a lot of these crazy loads now, 1,400 foot-seconds, 1,500 foot-seconds, or even some 1,600, those aren't doing anything for your downrange retained energy much beyond about 30 yards. So first question is, why do you want something that fast for a 30-yard shot beating the hell out of your shoulder and your face? The second question is, okay, you're shooting further away than that, so you're willing to put up with the extra recoil. Very good. But the trouble is, once it gets past about 30 yards, that faster started steel pellet, let's say the 1450 lead, it doesn't matter what shot type you're shooting, the faster the started same size pellet at 1450 versus, say, a nice modest velocity of 1,200 or 1,250 foot-seconds, that thing is shedding velocity just astronomically. Excuse me. And so by the time it gets to 40 or so yards, you've lost that 200 foot-second differential you had back at the muzzle. So by the time it gets to 60, that faster started out pellet is now actually going slower than the slower started pellet. And that's an important ballistic reality that is ignored in these hypervelocity shells. So my advice is, that's the marketing people. Okay? I mean, I worked 9 years for Winchester, not work for them, but as a consultant, and 18 years under contract at Remington, and X years for Heavy Shot and all these guys. And they got marketing people, and they're always looking for some new gimmick deal to get people to buy their shells. And even when you tell them, listen, that's false to be hyping these faster velocities because of these physics facts, they don't say it to your face. But when you go away, they're saying, the heck with this guy. We're going to do it anyway because these hunters think that's what works. So we'll sell them anything. If they want pink shot, we'll sell pink shot. We'll give them whatever their ignorance level is willing to accept. So it doesn't cost these companies anything to load a traditional velocity shot shell load, which would have been about 1,200 to at most 1,300. An ounce and a quarter 12 gauge lead load used to go 1,330. Okay, so that was like the fastest load there was. Everything else went 1,200 to, if it was lucky, 1,300. That's all you need. And you don't need anything faster than that. All you're doing is beating yourself up, shooting a more ineffective pellet at long range. And if you pattern test, you'll see those faster velocity loads don't pattern as well as the slower velocity. So you're smashing them through that choke, and if they're lead or bismuth, they're really getting deformed. And then they're coming out and really slowing down the more deformed they are. If they're steel or heavy shot, they're not going to deform. But it doesn't matter because you're building a bigger resistance ahead of themselves, as with the lead, because they're coming out so fast. So that's the truth there. Buy modest velocity loads, and that's the best you can get.
Man,
in my opinion, the best performing.
They're getting hard to find. I'm with you on that, and we've been hearing the same thing. But man, you walk into a store like a Cabela's or a Sportsman's Warehouse, you can't find them that slow. It's so frustrating.
It's horrible. I'm telling these guys the truth. And search for that. The only other way you get, a lot of them, they don't even send out to their dealers anymore. They just kind of pretend like they don't have them. Right. And they send out the fast ones. So the way to get around it, if you're going to be a factory load shooter, is you got to go into these ammo dealers ahead of the season, and you got to have read on the internet what loads that company has that you really want. And then you've got to order those things, have your dealer order them for you in advance of the season so that you get them, or you may never see them. And the only other way around it is you've got to hand load your own ammunition.
Right. You're right. Yeah, there's a couple smaller, newer companies out there that sell to, direct to consumer that we found, and we've interviewed one of them now, and we're going to talk to another. And they are selling those slower loads, and they're focusing more, I think, on the actual science and not the marketing hype. So hopefully there's a trend to come back around as the consumer gets more educated, thankfully, to the internet and people talking to each other and folks like you. So hopefully it changes soon. But yeah, I'm with you. They're tough to find, and you got to find a way to get them. Or hand load, I guess.
Yep. You got it.
Very good. Very good. What about these different? We talked about speed. What about pellet shape? You mentioned the spheres, and what we've always heard as hunters is you want them to be as close to a sphere as you can get. What about these other shapes? There's cubes out there. There's ones with golf ball divots on them. There's ones with like Saturn rings around them. These kind of pellets, are there any benefit to those different shapes that aren't spheres?
That's another area of what I call ballistic insanity. So I've tested all of these current shapes, the spherical, the cube-shaped ones, the ones with the I call them the Saturn-shaped ones with the ring around the equator, and then there's ones with pitting in there.
Right.
But it's not like a golf ball. Okay, a golf ball, you got to work real hard to get the divots or whatever you want to call them in the golf ball to be the same diameter and the same depth, and then it has to be a certain depth to work. So all those with pits, just because they're not formed very well by the process that makes that pellet. And then they try to BS, sorry about that, the hunter, and tell them that it's like a golf ball. They're like the moon. That's what they're like. They're not like a golf ball at all. Okay. Okay. So then anything less than a sphere, so a cube would be the worst shape.
Mm-hmm.
So Winchester has a load. I'm trying to remember what the heck it is. It's a steel shot load, and it has cube-shaped pellets.
Yeah.
And they don't call it that. I'm trying to...
Blindside?
Anyway, that's it, blindside. And it's a terrific thing for shooting in flooded timber, where a 20-yard shot is a long shot. I don't know if you've ever done it. But a cube-shaped pellet is going to have a very open pattern.
Right.
And, of course, that's what you want for a 20 to 25-yard shot. So they're great for that. And to Winchester's credit, if you read the fine print on the box, they even say this load is the effective max range is 25 yards. So remember that about it. It's not a 30-yard or a 40-yard pellet. Then you got the Saturn-shaped jobs. And with the extruded ring around the middle. Do you understand what I mean by that?
Yeah.
Okay. Then the nonsense marketing on that one is, they make a bigger wound channel.
Right. That's what they say.
And so, it would only do that if the pellet hit perfectly if you have the North Pole and the South Pole, and then the ring is around the equator, right?
Yep.
If the North Pole hit the duck or the South Pole hit the duck, then the ring would be a bit bigger around than the rest of the pellet. But if you hit the duck with it any other angle than that, the ring is not doing anything. To make another long story short, from my necropsies, we never have found any measurable difference in the wound channels made by those Saturn-shaped pellets versus a traditional spherical pellet.
Got it. And then there's another company out there selling, there's more than one does it, but selling copper shot, and those have dimples on them. What do you think about copper shot as a metal?
Well, copper is a little bit denser than steel shot, but is not as dense as bismuth shot. Okay?
Right.
So the least dense would be steel, and then the next least dense would be copper, so-called copper shot, and then the next dense would be bismuth, and then denser than that would be heavy shot, okay, or actually lead, and then denser than that would be a little bit denser would be heavy shot. And by the way, when you read my table, try to read my table, it doesn't have lead in it. It's a non-toxic one,
right.
But it has heavy shot. And just think of the heavy shot in there as whatever is in there as being the same as if you were shooting lead.
Okay.
But anyway, so the copper shot, if you're going to shoot it, you would have to, with steel, to get it to perform like lead, you've got to use a 2 sizes bigger pellet. If you're going to shoot this copper shot stuff, you're going to have to use a 1 size bigger pellet than you would shoot in lead to get equivalent performance. All right?
Got it.
And no, the little pits in it are not having it behave like a golf ball.
Well, then why put the pits in?
Because it's cast, and so it's molten, and then there's some bubbling, like when little bubbles bursting.
Yep.
And in the mold, and that leaves a pit.
Gotcha. So it's part of the manufacturing process that's difficult to get around. Then that's what you're saying. That makes sense.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that you can't kill anything with it. I'm just
Sure.
saying you've got to make that adjustment of one size bigger pellet.
Got it. Okay. So okay, cool.
So talking about the different kind of pellets composition, I guess. What do you think of like those? It's not a new thing, but like the steel and like I guess the blended stuff. So like there'll be steel and bismuth or steel and TSS.
Did you hear me groan?
Yeah, may have.
Okay, that's once again that evil word marketing. So, if you took an ice cream cone and you sprinkled some, chocolate drops on top, would you think that it might make the ice cream cone taste better, but it's not going to improve the performance of the ice cream cone? Maybe that's not a good analogy. Let's go with this one.
Okay.
If you take a steel load, and let's say it had an ounce of shot in it, and you took out an eighth of an ounce of shot, and you replaced it with, what are we replacing it with? Bismuth or something?
Bismuth or TSS.
Yeah, okay. Let's do bismuth first.
Okay.
If you replace it with bismuth, that's not enough more business. Yeah, the bismuth pellets individually have a little more density than the steel pellets, but there's not enough of them in there to, from a mathematical standpoint, to ensure that any of them are going to hit your bird at all. So you haven't really increased the lethality of the load. Now, TSS is quite a bit denser than steel shot, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So if you took steel and you took an eighth of 1 ounce load, you took an eighth of an ounce of steel out, stuck in an eighth of an ounce of TSS, you could, now you'd have the luxury of also using a smaller TSS pellet because it's so dense. It's going to be plenty effective. Now, it might help some killing the duck or the pheasant or whatever, chucker or something like that, but it's so expensive to get it. Why do it? Just shoot an all steel load or an all bismuth load, or you'll be fine. So I don't find in my testing that any of those, just a little bit more of something, and remember bismuth is also more expensive than steel shot.
Right.
Of a more expensive pellet that's denser, a small amount added to the load, whether you mix it in the shot or whether you layer it on top, does really anything measurable lethality-wise for killing effectiveness on birds.
Got it. It seems like, and tell me if I'm wrong, but kind of summarizing a lot of what you're saying here, that you want to get to the point where you have a lethal shot, but going past that, if it's more expensive, is kind of, only if you want to waste your money kind of situation. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's pretty close.
Okay.
It's like, if you understand steel and I'm not a steel promoter. I mean, I could care less.
Sure.
It's just another, thing in the periodic table. So we had steel shot. It's cheap. It's the cheapest thing. It's cheaper than lead. Now, it's cheaper than any pellet type you could shoot. It's abundantly available in America. All you got to do is melt down some cars or something, and you got a low-carbon steel to make pellets out of. It turns it into wire.
Yeah.
And then you chop it, and then you got to smash it together in a mold to form the pellet. And then you got to do some grinding. So the basic expense on making a steel pellet isn't the material. it's forming the material into this spherical shape. And once you get it in that spherical shape, by golly, you really got something, because they ain't going to deform. As it goes down the barrel through the choke and out through the universe, those pellets will not deform. And so you're going to get great patterning. All you got to do now is get a bigger pellet to get the same job done, and you got to get used to this deceleration at longer range, learning to use more lead than you remember when you shot lead, or really any of these other types. And but hey, it's the free world still. I guess with a political message until the Democrats take over. Well, I didn't say something evil there, or whoever wants to constrain you to not do something. So far, you still get a free choice of shot type. But if you want to spend more money on these other shot types, have at it. But you need to learn their effectiveness and their properties, so that you get the right choke in your gun and the right shot sizes. And incidentally, on my table here, I finished up finally, took me a lot more years, my bismuth testing. And so I'm going to be adding bismuth to this table and sending it around to all these agencies. So the next time you see it, you'll have steel, heavy shot, lead, and bismuth.
That's great, because I know a lot of, well, at least I know some of our listeners out there have talked to us, and they have older guns, so they don't want to shoot steel through like grandpa's gun, great grandpa's gun kind of thing, but they want to go take it out in the field, and a lot of places require non-tox, and they've been moving to bismuth, so having the information, I think, will be really valuable.
Yes, well, yeah. The nice thing about bismuth, the bad thing is it's more expensive.
Right.
The nice thing is it's not going to hurt any gun. Okay.
Right.
The bad thing about steel is if it's bad, it's light, but it's really not a problem because you use a bigger problem. What's bad about it is if you have certain guns or certain choke systems, you can have a bulging or splitting of the barrel down by the muzzle or the choke itself. So if you're going to be a steel shot shooter or a heavy shot shooter or any of these hard pellets like TSS, I mean, you want to talk about hard.
Yeah.
they make steel shot look soft, you know. You got to have a modern gun that's hard shot proof.
Right.
And your choke system, if you're buying a gun with chokes, or if you're buying chokes aftermarket, you've got to be sure that they're hard shot proof in all of the constrictions that you're going to be buying. So that brings us to that. I heard the word Benelli early on when we talked.
Sure.
Okay. So what always amazed me in this business was that certain companies, when steel shot came along, they kind of investigated it and learned a lot of the stuff that I now know. That's maybe because I was their consultant. But anyway, they didn't panic at all. They just tested their guns, and that's what they had me do, independently take their guns and test them to see if what steel shot would do, if anything, to their guns. And they found out most of their guns, steel shot, didn't hurt. And so consequently, they never opposed the advancement of shooting the steel shot. The companies that had gun companies, that then when they did their testing, found damage to their guns, those were the ones that opposed steel shot. And because they weren't willing to change the way they made their guns or their chokes. Now, there were exceptions like Browning. So like Browning would, I did testing for them, and we found, in these old Belgian-made Brownings, especially the full choke, you could get ring bulges in that full choke. So did you see Browning fighting this? No, heck no. When I had to go to court several times as an expert witness for hunting outfits that were taking their state to court for trying to make them shoot steel shot, like in Texas, for example. Who's down there? Ray Allen, the president of Browning, testifying that steel shot isn't going to hurt his guns. This is what they did to change the chokes or the metallurgy in their barrels. And have at it, boys. Buy Browning with no trouble. And it was real simple. It's like our guns now that are made in Japan instead of Belgium, they're all made with these changes, and they're all steel shot proof. Okay, so be sure you're buying a Japanese-made Browning. And then there were other companies, Remington and other ones, that basically did the same thing. So to this day, the biggest myth on steel shot is that it's going to damage automatically whatever shotgun you've got. It's going to damage that gun. And the truth is that there's maybe 9 or 8% of the shotguns out there that steel shot would damage. And then that's only in their full chokes usually. And only when you shoot big pellets, 2s or bigger. Right. So there's a very small amount that really had to be changed. And then there's the holdout companies. And the biggest holdout was Benelli. So to this day, you still can't buy a Benelli shotgun with their full choke that they say you can shoot steel shot in. You've got to buy an aftermarket to have a steel shot proof choke in full or improved modified in a Benelli shotgun. But you got to remember now they've been bought out by Beretta, which is one of the companies that tested their shotguns, never found any problems, and went around the world selling the heck out of their shotguns. Everyone is happy. They bought out Benelli now, and you can bet there'll be changes.
So it's weird that Benelli's gone this long, or any other company in that world, because like I'm 41 years old and I've been shooting steel my entire life, because my entire hunting life, since I was a teenager, non-tox has been a thing in a lot of places I want to go hunting. And so I just shoot steel all season. And I don't remember ever hunting with lead. I'm sure I did when I was younger, but I think I've been shooting with steel pretty much my entire life. So the fact that someone in their 40s can be like, I don't even remember shooting lead, and there's companies still holding out, is kind of wild to me.
Yeah, it's crazy. And maybe that's one of the reasons they're out of business, right? Because what happened with them is they got sold a lot of guns in America because they had that 3.5-inch 12-gauge Black Eagle. And so when that 3.5 12-gauge was created, was mainly created for steel shot because it had more room when you could get more shot in it with that bulky steel wad. And then people like that. They find, oh, wow, here's an autoloader, and it's light, and it can shoot 2 3/4, 3-inch, or 3.5. So that became a real popular gun in waterfowling. And then they found out the hard way, a lot of these guys, that with big pellets in there, if they didn't read the owner's manual, not to shoot into their full chokes that are modified, then they got bulge chokes stuck in the barrel and all kinds of stuff. And I'm sure that over time that hurt their sales, but I don't have any proof of that. But it doesn't matter because they're out of business now. They're owned by somebody else.
Yep, 100%. It's very. Maybe that's a point for anyone in business, right? Adapt or die, essentially.
Yeah. And so there's most of the guns made in America are, make a long story short, are not going to be harmed by hard shot. And they have, if they got screw-in chokes, they're made with hard shot proof screw-in chokes, and they tell you that right up front. Where you run into trouble is when you start buying shotguns made in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And back in Europe, they were the last ones, and they're still fighting about converting to steel shot. They got some, minor conversion to non-toxic shot, but they're still fighting it because most of the gun makers made shotguns to handle lead, and they never even envisioned that there would be anything harder than lead. And so the barrels and the chokes, the integral chokes that most of them had, were never designed to handle hard shot. So if you shot steel shot in them, you could automatically, if they had a full choke for sure, count on some barrel damage. And so they're the holdouts. And that's why if you buy a foreign-made gun, you got to really be sure that it's going to be steel shot proof, or hard shot, I call it, because heavy shot and TSS and all of those will do the same thing that nasty old steel shot will do. So if you buy a Beretta, you got no problem. I'm not selling these, they're not paying me. And if you buy a Browning made in Japan, you got nothing to worry about. Morocco, they don't sell much in America, but they sell a lot in Australia.
Right.
And they're made in Japan. And they don't have any trouble with steel shot. And the whole country is steel shot for everything. You don't have a choice. There's other brands that are made in Europe that can handle steel that I can't think of right now. But those are ones I tested for sure.
Right.
And you just got to read the fine print and ask questions. And then if it's going to hurt it, it isn't going to hurt the barrel. And from the barrel, I mean from the chamber, the back of the chamber, all the way down the barrel until you get to the choke. That's where the problem comes, because now you're taking this column of shot and you're trying to squeeze it through a smaller area. So that's where the big strain is, down there. And remember, back in the chamber, the shell isn't got zero velocity, and then it's accelerating, and it's at max velocity when the shot reaches that choke. So you've got max constriction plus max velocity meeting right at the back of the choke. And that's where the splitting and the bulging occur. So if you've got a gun that's going to do that, you want to be sure that you're shooting the open chokes in that gun, the ICs, and modified at tightest. And if you want tighter, that you're buying an aftermarket made hard shot choke that will screw into your gun. If it's got integral chokes, I can't help you. You got to be sure you're using the open chokes.
Got it. So we did a lot of talk about chokes and shot shells. If someone, this is a hypothetical, because I don't think this would really ever be a problem, but if you could have the perfect choke and a crappy shell, whatever that is, or a perfect shell and a crappy choke, which one would you rather have?
The perfect shell and the crappy choke.
Really? Okay. Tell us why.
Why? Because what kills the duck is the shell, not the gun or the choke. And the choke regulates, to some extent, the pattern. But there's a certain amount of pattern quality that the shell already possesses. And so you can get away a lot of times with a crappy choke, but a really well-made choke with a nice, modest velocity that patterns better anyway. And, it's better to have both of them be perfect. But if you got to have one or the other, I'd go for the shell before I worry about the choke.
Got it. That makes perfect sense.
Okay, so since we're talking about loads and stuff like that again, so me and Matt hunt in Washington State, and we have a lot of opportunities for a mixed bag kind of hunt. Like we can shoot quail, pheasants, and ducks all in a single walk. So, having said that, what would you recommend? Say we shoot behind flushing dogs, so 30 yards. What would you recommend pellet size and all that stuff?
Okay, well, if I understand this question right, you're saying that you have all of those species. You walk somewhere hunting, and all of those species are available to be shot.
Correct.
Yeah.
In one place. You don't have to move from one place to another.
Nope.
No.
One walk.
Are they released?
No.
No.
Okay. Well, first of all, your description of that, you might have what's known as heaven, because I've never encountered that anywhere. So I'm not sure what to tell you. Well, what are the species again? You said ducks, pheasants,
And quail.
Like
and quail.
valley
Okay.
quail. Yeah.
Think of the ducks. Are they mainly mallards or something?
Yes.
Okay. A mallard is about the same size as a pheasant. Yeah. And if you go through the lethality table, you'll see that what works for a pheasant works for a large duck. So you want to read down the large duck line over decoys, and you're going to be looking at steel 3s to 2s would work fine. But if a little quail jumps up, that's a completely different animal and way smaller as far as square inches of target area. And so what's always worked for quail is a little shot, like 8s and 7.5s, whether, in lead, or if it was steel, it would be a 7 or 7 they don't make 7.5 steels, but 7. And if it's bismuth, it would be a 7. So I don't know what the hell, you can fire at the quail, and it would just be, if you had your 3s and 2s, it would just be, or 4s even, it would just be a matter of luck that you hit it.
So, man, now you're making me feel like I just got lucky. So, like last year, towards the end of the season, we were at a place, and I think we had a mixed bag of that, essentially, those 3 species. And I shot a duck and a quail like back to back, but I have a 20 gauge Satori, like the made Japan ones, a relatively new one. And I was shooting 4 steel, like Kent fast steel, so really high speed. That's all you can find. And I was able to shoot a quail and a duck. Is that just was I lucky on that quail that my pattern didn't, that a part of the pattern hit the quail then essentially?
Yeah, you probably got it with one pellet.
Yeah, probably.
So yeah, I mean, that's just a matter of mathematics. That's your chance of the pattern density you would have got with those 4 steel. Just is way too open, way too much space between each pellet for you to really, even if you put the pattern on the bird, to have a pellet actually hit it. So, when you get down to quail, you're talking about, if you look in the table, you're talking about a pattern that you need 200 to 210 pellet pattern for B1 killing on quail, whereas pheasants or ducks are 90 to 95 patterns.
That's because the bird's so small, right? That you need more to up your odds.
That's right. The smaller the bird, the greater the pattern density you have to have to put a pellet or 2 on that bird. And you can also then get away with smaller pellets because there's way less length of tissues to penetrate to get to the head, neck, and lungs and heart. And to hit the head of a quail is just almost a miracle, or its neck, because the neck is not really the deal. It's the spinal cord in the neck. Okay.
Which is tiny in a quail.
I guess the way that I would, on any bird, if the neck hit, the only thing that counts is if the pellet hits the spinal cord.
Right.
Okay. And so I guess what I would do on your heavenly walk, which raises a point of jealousy, is I would try to remember, do like the ducks come first or something? And if so, I'll be loaded up with a duck load. And then as the walk continues, if the quail tend to come later, I'll switch to quail loads. And if a duck jumps up, I just won't shoot at it.
All right. I like it. Cool. I had one more question, and then we'll let you loose. We took a lot of your time. We really appreciate it, Tom.
Sure.
We have heard a couple different answers on this, and I'm not sure. I guess I can ask because it's selfish, because it's what I shot last year. Is 20 gauge, 4-shot. We'll just say steel, but it could be anything, I guess. We've heard that either it patterns great, or it's never patterns great. Do you have any? Have you studied that or seen that at all with specifically 20 gauge 4-shot?
Okay, is this lead or what?
Let's just say steel.
Okay. I've never seen that, ever. Let me tell you this, that I don't hardly get to ever choose what shot I shoot or whatever, because I'm always testing something. But occasionally I get to actually go hunting like you do, and I get to pick. And when I do my own duck hunting, I've got steel 2s in my 3-inch 20 gauge, or steel 3s in my 3-inch 20 gauge for ducks. And if I shoot heavy shot in my 3-inch 20 gauge, I've got size 4. And they pattern great. So I would say anybody experiencing that, I want to know what they got for chokes.
Got it.
There's something not right about the choke.
Something's not adding up.
Okay, and that's not a knock on the choke maker. None of this is. There's no predicting when you have a choke and you buy it, and this guy, you say, I want to modify it on brand Y. So you go buy a brand Y modified. And then you go to pattern test it. You don't have any idea how it's going to pattern until you pattern test it.
Right.
And one guy's brand Y modified in your gun will pattern great with a load, and the next guy's so-called modified in your gun will pattern crappy. And so the difference is there's a little difference in the internal diameter, but also mainly in the cross-sectional look at what's going on in that choke. And so some of them have a longer forcing cone at the back of the choke. So the shot's got to get, remember, from the bore diameter into the choke. So it's got to be compressed, cone-shaped compression into the choke area. Then the next thing that counts is how long is the parallel section in the choke that's now this smaller diameter that he's calling modified.
Right.
Okay, how long is that? Or maybe it doesn't have any length, and then it's not a choke parallel. Okay, it's this cone type old-fashioned choke. That's the way you made it. See, that's the thing. So you that's why I tell these hunters, I don't know what you're doing in life, but if you're a shotgunner, you simply got to spend some time going out there pattern testing and counting all the bloody holes. And you'll be amazed at what you learn in a very short period of time. And you got to do it right. You've got to draw that 30-inch circle, and don't draw it in advance, and then think that you're God and you're going to perfectly center your pattern in there, because no one can do that. That's why you shoot first and then draw the circle, okay?
Right.
And you want to do more than one shot. That'll surprise you how one shell will pattern really good, and the next one is mediocre, and then the next one maybe is crappy, and then, oh, here comes a really good one again. And then so when you evaluate your ammunition, you take your 3 shots, and the more consistent the pattern is from one to the next, the first shot versus the second one versus the third one, the more consistent that is, the more you can rely on it. If it's, a big difference between those 3, this is just garbage in your choke. And it's a wound coming. That's what's going to happen. You have lots of wounding.
Yeah, that makes sense. We were talking to Jimmy Mueller of Mueller Chokes, and he mentioned that when he first was getting into shotgunning and bought a bunch of chokes, he had to buy, I think he said 10 chokes to get 2 that were the same and both modified. It's like the rest of them were all over the place, so it's to that same kind of point, is that you gotta know what's coming out of your gun. You can't just trust what it says on the choke tube.
Yep, that's correct. He's dead right. Yeah. I've done work for that guy.
Yeah.
Pattern testing.
Okay, cool. Yeah, he's a wealth of knowledge as well in this stuff. He's lives and breathes it like you do, it seems like.
Yep.
Great. Well, Tom, we really thank you for coming on the show, and I've learned a lot. You explain things very, very well, so I really appreciate that. It really allowed me to understand a lot of the different things going on in my shotgun when I'm pulling the trigger. So thanks for coming on, and have a good rest of your night.
Okay, and thanks very much for having me.
Man, I'm more confused than ever.
Yeah. So we've talked to 3 folks here kind of in a row about ballistics and shotguns and shells and chokes and all the things. Yeah, Jared, but it seems like we got 3 different answers.
Mm-hmm.
And I was feeling good. Like, I think I know what I want to shoot this year and how I need to go about this, but now I don't know.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page. Like, yeah. I think there seems to be 2 major schools of thought.
Okay.
There is the pattern density school of thought, which means like slightly smaller pellets. Kind of discovered that speed is largely irrelevant.
That we can agree on.
I think speed
want the 1200 to 1300 range is ideal, it seems like. 1350 is fine.
Yes.
Once you go over 1400, you're starting to really mess around. Okay. So, we're good on that.
Speed is irrelevant, so we figured that out. That's great.
Speed doesn't kill, it sells.
Right.
Okay.
So,
next.
You have pattern density, and then you have pellet size.
Both important. If you could have both.
Right.
And it patterns well.
Perfect.
Ideal, but
like
doesn't
TSS.
exist.
TSS.
But then affordability.
Right.
I'm not spending $10 a trigger pull on birds.
This is true.
I can't swallow it.
True.
Okay.
So, I don't know. I had a thought process this year.
Yeah.
Of where I wanted to go. I was leaning more towards pattern density, but people talked about pellet itself, bigger pellets. So I don't know.
So Tom, who's on this episode, he's an expert. He might be the expert out there when it comes to his credentials.
Yes.
And he's, when it comes to steel, he wants pellet size, and he has a minimum size that he wants per bird as per his lethality table, which I'll link in the podcast description if you haven't looked for that yet, folks. I think both sides are right.
Yes.
I think Tom, which he talked about with conservation, he wants lethality.
Mm-hmm.
He wants trigger pull, bird dead in the air.
Yeah.
Bird hits the ground dead. Your dog picks it, brings it to you.
Yeah.
Which is ideal. That's what we all want. If you don't want that, something's wrong with you.
Sure.
I'm not afraid to say that. If the other side, which is smaller shot, 5, 6, maybe even 7s if you're crazy.
Sure.
But say 5 and 6 steel.
Right.
On like a pheasant, might bring the bird down, but it's not necessarily dead. In fact, last year shooting 20 gauge 4-shot steel. I don't know if any pheasant I shot was dead on the ground. Maybe one was, but like most of the ones I remember shooting,
Right.
I had to finish off,
True.
which I'd rather not do.
Right. So, for
But
me,
I got the bird still.
True. For me, I think it was different. See, I shot. Granted, I'm shooting a 12 gauge, which is a little bit different.
Right.
Steel fours. The ones I shot were dead when they hit the ground. Consequently, I did know. I think when I had it with my dad, he was shooting. Dad's also not a big upland guy. I think he was shooting steel sixes. I didn't find this out till afterwards. And the birds he shot 2.
Okay.
On the one day we went out together. They dead right there.
Okay.
So anecdotal, yes, but interesting nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean those are just singular points from last season.
Right.
So I think any other three folks we talk to, like they have more data, especially Tom, than we do on that. But
Right.
just trying to break this down for ourselves, and I'm sure you're thinking the same thing as we're going into the season here. Like, what do I buy? I don't know. I think I need to go pattern. Jared, you did some patterning. Patterning.
And I did do some patterning. It was eye-opening to say the least. I found out that last year I shot my 870, of course, with a Carlson modified choke.
A pump.
A pump. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, shot a pump. Of course. So, Remington 870 Express, Carlson extended modified choke, and I was shooting Apex steel number 4s. Those are going 1450, but those are the slowest ones I could find.
Right.
So upon my patterning, and I shot at 30 and 40 yards, I found out that nothing that I shot was more open than a light modified.
Okay.
So I was shooting, and then in the Apex I was shooting last year, I was essentially shooting an extra full choke. A very, very tight choke, which explains some absolute devastating shots I made, but it also explains some absolute mind-boggling misses that I had. I was shooting a very, very tight pattern, which I didn't know because I didn't pattern. Now I know that, and it's like I said, pattern your guns.
Yeah.
Especially your chokes. When you need new chokes, pattern your guns. I will say I did shoot the new Moeller choke, the decoy out of my newer 870, new to me 870, and I'm super excited about that choke because that had a very good. It was a more even choke. It didn't have as much of the hot spots as the Carlson did. Nothing wrong with the Carlson whatsoever. I've shot the Carlson for years. Just want to try something different this time. And then with the Moeller, again, super even patterns. And they were bigger than 30 inches typically. There's more pellets on the paper, just counting the 30-inch circle. But yeah, it's an eye-opening experience. Just like test your guns and pattern them just to find out what they do. It's tedious and boring, but it's very important. And I have more patterning to do because I got a bunch more loads that I just got. So
Yeah, you've kind of been picking up lots of different loads to try them out. So it'll be interesting to see what you find.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then that's also only that gun, that choke, that shell.
True.
So just because it works for you doesn't mean I'm going to throw that choke
Right.
or whatever I have set up for my Satori, and
Yes.
it's not going to work the same with that shell necessarily. So
Correct.
I got to get out and pattern too and try. I have a bunch of Brownie Midas chokes, which, I need to see what they do. 'Cause I just got them last season. See what they're doing, what they're throwing with the different loads that I have, and we'll have to go from there. But yeah, so take what you want from these 3 episodes. I think we do potentially have some more coming with some other folks in the industry to talk about this topic. And we'll see what else we can learn and what we take from it. But I think in the end, it's just pattern your gun and the speed.
Yeah.
Those are the 2 things I think is just like locked in. You gotta do those 2 things if you want to get serious, understand what's going on. If you're not doing that, then don't do anything else first. Like you can't count and just say, I'm just buying this shell and this choke and it's gonna be fine. It might be, and that's pretty much how I've operated up until now.
Yeah, it's a guess.
It's a guess.
and your modified choke might be an extra full.
Yes,
So,
exactly. Well, on that note, all right. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed the episode, and we'll talk to you all next time. Thanks for listening to the Go Flush Yourself podcast. You can continue the conversation on our Discord server. The link is in the podcast description. You can also follow along with Matt and Jared on Instagram and Facebook. If you want to support the podcast, you can subscribe to the Go Flush Yourself on Patreon for the easy monthly cost of only $2. You can also check out our shop and pick up a Go Flush Yourself sticker, shirt, or other merchandise. All links are in the podcast description.